Hello, Demis Helen here, and this is Synth Plucko. We're going to run through the settings and just the reasons why they've been adjusted like that to create this sound. But first, let's listen to it and then we'll run through it. So as you can hear there, it's quite bright and quite thin at the same time, and the reason for that is I want this to be the main focus at the forefront of the mix of the synths that I have used, and also not to provide too much low-end detail in there for the reasons keeping it sat on the top. So we have two oscillators, both using the Rotosound Bloodhunter waveform, and nothing is really big on the both oscillators there. We've got two unisons and the detune's identical. Everything's identical apart from the panning, hard left and hard right on each one there, as you can see, and that is forcing a stereo width on the preset instead of just relying on the width of this with the detune knob. Then this all goes into filter 1, and we're using a low pass 24 here, so we get a nice filter close, nice and smooth but really deep at the same time. This is being routed through to the mod envelope 1, as you can see here, and we're using the fatty preset there on mod envelope. A pretty sharp decay there and pretty sharp sustain as well, so there's not much sustain in there to keep it kind of bouncy as the filter closes. A little bit of a steeper slope there on the decay as well, and that gives you that effect. So when the filter closes, you get this. And probably a better example is here if we just filter it in. So it's not sharp, it's got a sort of a rounded feel to it, and that is partly because of this fatty preset as well. I do like that envelope shape. It sounds really nice when you're filtering things off if you don't want that really sharp staccato feel to it. And all that is happening then, apart from the effects here, is we've got the filter 1 cut off to the mod wheel, so you can control the closing and opening of your filter. And then on the effects, this is where the sound is heavily relying on its tone from these effects. So let's just have a listen without the effects. And then with. So you can hear I'm using the reverb to drown out the sound a little bit, so it's not up front. It's a good way to push your sound just a little bit into the background so it doesn't become the forefront of your mix, and you kind of start creating that depth in your mix at the same time. So with distortion, very, very little amount there, as you can see. Very little, and it's just really to add a little bit of gritty texture there, because it's all about the texture when I'm building these presets. So you'll see across all the presets they are roughly the same with the distortion. Then on the delay, we have a ping pong with left and right channels, and they're both on 1/8 notes, and we've cut out the bass a little bit there. And we didn't really want the delay to play a big part when it was the filter was open. We want it so when it's closed you can just start hearing that delay, giving it a little bit more movement. The chorus is adding width, so the reason for the chorus, instead of using the detune to give it a little bit more thickness, is the sound is kind of perfect where I want it to be, so I just wanted to add a bit of weight to the stereo image of it, and this really does help add that little bit of width in there. If we listen to this without the chorus on, and then on, so if you remember, I want to keep this preset smooth, and it's quite stabby and jarring there, but then smooth there, and it's affecting the transient, and that is exactly what I want to do in this case. Reverb, quite heavy, as you can hear, quite a lot of reverb in there, and that's to set the tone and the mood for the synth line. I wanted to get the spacing right, and that is how that's been used there. There's a few outboard reverbs on the other synths, but on this one this was set entirely within SynthMaster One. And then finally the EQ, just a roll off of the lows. Didn't use the high pass option here because I wanted a nice gentle slope off, so we still retain some of that bass element, but fading off very nicely and smooth. And that concludes looking at synth plucko, and you can get this preset via the online library as usual. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.